So next up we have Shriya. Shriya is going to be speaking about American Sign Language and how to help the disabled. So take it away, Shriya. Are you able to share your screen?
Yes, I am. Let me just figure out which, yeah. Let me just figure out what I need to do quickly. Okay. So
while she's figuring that out, Shriya is a high school student in San Mateo, California.
Hi, my name is Shriya Shukla, and my project is ASL, or American Sign Language. So my project description. My application is basically an American Sign Language alphabet translator, and it allows people to take pictures of their hand signing a language, for example, like this. This is the letter A. And then it prints out what letter that person is signing along with the AI score. So to the right is an example of what you would receive in the IDE console of the Python program. So the top line is showing that the computer camera is working. And then the last two lines, which are circled in red, are basically what the AI predicted and the AI score. That's mostly for me, though I don't plan on actually applying it to the original idea, which I will talk about later. So my motivation for this problem. I found this really nice quote, which I think, which then led me to do some more research into American Sign Language statistics. So it takes more time to say a single word in American Sign Language than to speak it in English, but the same amount of time to communicate an entire sentence. So this just means that American Sign Language is just another way of speaking English. But some shocking statistics are that 98% of deaf people do not receive education in sign language, and 72% of families do not sign with their deaf children. Imagine them struggling, or yourself struggling, not being able to communicate with your child when they're hurt or if something's wrong. So I wanted to help with this. Like I mentioned earlier, my solution is an application that translates American Sign Language. And the gift to the right is something similar to what I want to do, but not exactly. I'll explain that more in the future ideas. So my data. My data contains 3,000 images of each letter, and it also contains, the data set that I had used also contains three extra words, nothing, space, and delete. However, I only used the word nothing. So in total, I trained 81,000 images, or used in the AI. So a little bit about the AI and algorithm I had used. I used the residual neural network, which is a ResNet algorithm, or the ResNet algorithm. And it's basically, the images are processed in each layer, but it's also bypassed, or it skips certain layers, so that way the data is processed better. Now here's a bit about my application. So the first part is the Python code accessing the computer camera. Then the second code is just establishing some commands from the keyboard. So to escape the program, I just have to click escape. And to take a picture or to capture the frame, you press space. And the last part of it is just the AI being integrated into the code. So that way the frame that you had captured is then taken to the AI, and the AI will then print back a response saying what letter it is along with its score. So experiments and results. So the experiments done had shown 98 to 99% accuracy, and the highest accuracy score was 99.938. However, I did not get a value of 100, and that's what I want, right? So then instead of looking at a confusion matrix to figure out what the accuracy or the actual accuracy was, I just looked at the score values and then went back and trained my AI again, changing the hyperparameters. And the hyperparameters I had changed were mini batch size and learning rate. So as you can see, the first time I had used the AI, I got an accuracy of 80.98. And that's okay, but that's not exactly what I want. But then I went back and changed the mini batch size to 1 and the learning rate to a slightly smaller number. And then I got an accuracy of 90.89. So that the accuracy went up by like 10%, which is amazing. But like I said before, it's not quite at 100, and that is what I want. So, what I learned from experimenting and training the AI is that having a high value in hyperparameters can affect the accuracy of the AI. And this is not my first experiment done with American Sign Language alphabet. Previously, I had done a project where I just did the letters A and B. And I had 100 images for A and 100 images of B. However, I had the number of layers for the ResNet to 200. So it just overanalyzed, and every single image was the letter A. It never predicted B. So then that's when I learned that having a high value in hyperparameters can affect the accuracy of the AI. So here's a quick demo. So first what you do is you run the Python code. And I had done it in Jupyter Notebook. And this code then, like I said before, opens the camera. You quickly sign a letter and then click space to capture the frame. And then the AI will print back a response. It seems like a lot of numbers, but you can see that the predicted label is B, and the score is, oh, it's hard to see the score. But yeah, it's a bit hard to read. And you can see that the AI was correct since that's the letter B in American Sign Language. Okay. So that's basically what my project was. And for future ideas, I want to make this more like the responses more caption-like. So I know there are many people out there like me who need subtitles when watching a movie or a show on Netflix or a video on YouTube. So that's what I want to do with ASL. I want to be able to have captions in ASL for people to use. And it should be an option on YouTube or Netflix and not just for certain softwares. I also want to use this AI or this idea for teaching people how to use American Sign Language or learn American Sign Language so it's easier to communicate. The second thing I want to do is add more words. So instead of it just being the alphabet, I want to start adding words. Just like for a toddler, you would teach them the alphabet and then you slowly teach them how to read words, similar to that. And last but not least, I want to continue to improve my accuracy so it's at 100% and not just at 99 or 98. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Shriya. As usual, please put any questions on the Q&A or on the chat. So I did have a question. Do you think it would be easy or straightforward to maybe also add a voice interface to your app so that if somebody is, say signing into the camera, then instead of me having to necessarily look at the app to figure out what the character or the word is, maybe the app could just say it.
Yeah, so that did cross my mind, but first I do plan on implementing that or making this into an actual app or actual software, not just a Python program. But I do plan on adding some voice into it. That way it's not like you have to constantly look at the screen.
Makes sense, yeah. And there's also another question. How long did it take to build a library of images? 80,000 images is a lot of images.
So I actually found this data set off of Kaggle. However, it did come with only one test image. So then I had to create my own library or of my images for testing, because if you use the AI's testing data set, training data set to this, then I had just named it ASL for the project name.
So maybe how long did it take you to assemble your own test images? That might be another,
Yeah, it took, let's see, I'd say 30 minutes. I didn't have much. It was just more for the score of the AI and not really to figure out a whole confusion matrix or to figure out the ROC curve or anything like that. So yeah, it just took about 30 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. And yeah, and if anybody is interested, given that this is a massive data set and there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done with it, if anybody is interested in this data set, just drop us a note, at AIClub, and I'm sure we can, work with you to get you, access to Shriya's data set. So sounds good. Thank you so much, Shriya. Great work. Thank you.